Howdy everyone, and welcome back to this Next.js and Contentful tutorial series. In the previous video, we managed to style the company profile page using Tailwind CSS. And in this video, our purpose is to make our jobs searchable. Namely, at the moment, on the home page, we don't have the ability to search for jobs, to filter based on tags, experience level, company name, and so on and so forth. So our goal is to put the foundations that will allow us to do those things in subsequent videos. And to explain exactly what I mean, unlike other videos, in this one I'm going to show you the final outcome of what we're going to be able to achieve at the end of this video. Okay, so let's go to this. Right, so I just went to the feature branch of tutorial 21, and you can see that at the end of this video we are going to be able to have this. We're going to have this specific page where you can see the different components, the search bar, the filter, the sidebar form, the sort form here like this. And obviously at the moment we won't write the functions to be able to respond to these different events. It's just to put the foundations that will allow us to do those things in subsequent videos. Otherwise this will be a very long video. Okay, so as you can see, the layout of this page can be divided into three main areas, right? We have here first of all the sidebar, okay? Then secondly, we have the search bar, okay? And thirdly, we have this area here, which in and of itself can be divided into two subcomponents as well: the listings and the this area here with the message and the sort form. Okay, so we have three main areas, or let's say four. Okay, and one thing that it's important to notice is that when the code is implemented, this component, these four areas can be represented as four different React components. It's very important to know because we want our code to be modular, reusable. Okay, we want, for example, this search bar to be able to be dropped anywhere in the application and still work. It doesn't necessarily need to work only on this page and this page alone. Likewise, for the sidebar, we may want to put it anywhere else and it still works. As this already is a component in and of itself, the job listing components, which by the way we are using here in the company profile pages, right? So you already see that we are modular and we want to remain modular. And to drive the idea even more home, I created this lossy chart diagram to explain what we are going to achieve in this tutorial and why we are going to do things the way we are going to do them. Okay, so if I go back to this page, this whole thing is a Next.js. This whole page, right? This whole thing is a Next.js. The whole thing here is a Next.js page, okay? And this is the index page, right? What we want to do is to create a jobs page component, right? We want to create a jobs page component that will encapsulate the different states that all our subcomponents depend on. Because if I come back here, you see this here, this is one component, the search, and you can see that this is it here. Okay, if I go the side, and then you have the job sidebar form, this is another component, and then you have the job sort form, which you can find here, and finally the listings, which is this component over here. Okay, the listings. And one thing that's important to notice is that the state on which this component depends can be changed on whatever we are searching here, right? So the state, whatever we are displaying on this component, can be altered by what is being searched by the user here. Likewise, the filters can affect the results that we display here. Similarly, the sort can affect the yeah, I'm just alerting something here based on the change. So the the sorting can affect the order and therefore change this job listing component. And so you can see already that these components here needs to talk to one another, okay? But remember, in React we don't have a way, at least it's not, if you can do it, but it's not going to be efficient to make component at the same hierarchy level talk to one another. So the best way to do that is to pull the state up one level in a parent component that will encapsulate that behavior, right? So as to allow you, for example, from this parent component to dispatch, or not necessarily dispatch, but pass as a property to each subcomponent the state that it depends on, okay? And therefore, because the state is managed globally, right, you can pass not only the state but also the setters, right, the functions to update those states, right? Because all of these states, these 4 states, okay, are going to be created in this parent component. It's annoying. Are going to be created in this parent component, and alongside their functions to update those states as well, not just the state, but the functions to update them. And why don't we put it in the index.js where we can, but we like to have things modular and isolate concerns. So Next.js is fantastic at pulling the initial data that we need for our components, namely using get static props, okay? And we would like to separate that and make sure that that behavior is kept in the index.js alone, and everything else that is related to changing those states like this is done in React, in a React component in and of itself, right? So that's where we're headed in this tutorial. We're going to create 3 additional components. So job sidebar, job page sidebar form, search job form, jobs sort form, which is responsible for sorting the jobs. This one is already created, we are already using this, and to each of them we are going to send different states, okay? We're going to send different slice of the state that we create in this parent component, jobs page component, okay? So without further ado, let's get right into the video, into VS Code, and let's start coding that. Okay, so I'm going to switch to the live branch where we're going to code this, okay? So switch back, and now you see it's no longer there, so we're going to start doing that. Right, the first thing we want to do, obviously, is to create that parent component here that we rely on. We're going to create that parent component, so let's do that first, okay? And for that, so far, in our components here, it's not really a data component, right? It's not, its purpose is not like to display a specific piece of information. It's not either a globals where we are keeping our headers, our layouts, namely. So I'm going to create another folder in this components folder called UI, which is basically responsible, where we will store every component that is UI centric, like displaying things in the front end, okay? And I'm going to, in that folder, I'm going to create a page called jobs page. It's a component called jobs page, okay? And let's do the scaffolding very quickly, okay? And we want to use this component in the index page, right? Obviously that's what we want to do, right? So I'm gonna go in index, in pages, index, here, where is that? Yeah, here, okay? So whatever it is that we're doing here, we want to start doing that now in the jobs page component. So let's do that right now. So I'm going to come here in jobs page component, okay? And I'm going to import, first of all, you know what? Let me first replace whatever we have here with jobs page. Import jobs page, okay? And I'm just going to replace whatever we have here with that. Jobs page, and then jobs equals to jobs, right? Yeah, good to go. Right, that's it. But obviously it won't display anything, right? We are not displaying the jobs in that page yet. We are just printing jobs page. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to go in job page and I'm going to import the job list component, jobs list. Okay. Sorry. And I'm going to consume the parameter here, and I'm going to display the job list. Jobs list. Okay. Jobs equals jobs. Very good. Very good. Now we have solved, we have that encapsulating parent component. So what do we want to do in there? Well, the first thing that we had, just for your convenience, I have also created some screenshots of the final outcome of this video. So the first thing you want to do is to display the list. Sorry, just to display this message here. So let's do that now. The first thing you want to do is I'm going to create a dynamic variable, an editable variable, a mutable variable. Sorry, let's call it jobs found message equals to found jobs dot length. Okay, jobs. Voila. Then obviously this is not always going to be valid. Like if we have only one job, we want to say like job, and if you have no jobs at all, we want to say no jobs found. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to add a quick switch statement here. Switch, oops, switch, and then jobs length. Okay, and I'm going to change based on the case 0. Okay, what do I want to do? Well, I want to change jobs found message to no jobs found. No jobs found. This, and I break. Okay, in case of 1, you want to say jobs found message equals to, I'm going to copy this. Only, actually, let me give another better name, a better message. Only one job found. Okay, let's put this lowercase here as well. Very good. And in any other case, okay, first let's break here, break, and then on any other case, let's put default. You want to break. Okay, so then we want to use that here in our component. We want to put that message here, so I'm going to remove this first temporarily like this, and I'm going to add a fragment. Okay, put my job listing, and then I'm going to display that message somewhere here. Okay, so jobs found message, have it here. Okay, found 5 jobs. That's already a good start. All right, and the next thing we want to do, what is it? What's the next thing we want to do? Well, we want to first of all create the states. Okay, we want to create the states, the 3 additional states that we rely on, which are if I go back to our diagram, the first thing we rely on is the jobs page sidebar form, and then search job form and jobs form. So these are the states that are relevant for those 3 components. So let's create the states. Okay, so let's do that now. I'm gonna let me collapse this. Okay, and then let's say const, first of all, sidebar form state. Okay, then set sidebar form state, okay, equals to use state. Just could have actually no use state. Import this. Let's see. I'm going to import use state. Use state. Delete this. Remove these things here. Okay. Voila. Now, what do we need? Well, we need, if I go back to our screenshot here, well, we need something to store the job types. So this is a select. Okay. So we have all the, we are keeping all the possibilities. And remember, if you look back, you should remember back in our diagram, entity relationship diagram, this is an enum, and these are the only values that are possible here. Okay, so I'm going to keep a state to store the job types in. This is basically what we call it, a state slice, right? So this is an array, right? The only thing is, the next thing is experience levels. It's also an array. The next one is remote, okay, right? It's this boolean, and by default we want to, yeah, let's put it to true. Okay. Feature jobs only. By default, let's put this to false. Okay, because we don't only need the feature jobs only, like we want to display all the jobs. Go back to the image here, you see, and then yeah, another thing that we need is the salary range. Okay, so let's add that here. Base salary options. And remember, because we have filtering based on, like, we are going to send a range query to the server every time we send a request. So we want to keep track at any given time of all the values that are added, that are being selected. So we're going to add another variable called base salary bounds, which is going to basically store all the actual values, okay, that we are actually going to send to the server. All right, so now that we have this, we can now create the other piece of state, which is the search form state, right, which is basically an empty string. So I'm not going to type that, I have it already here, so I'm just going to copy this very first and paste it here like this. Okay, so here we have the search form state, search form state. Okay, then the next thing we want to do, remember, these subcomponents here, okay, these two, we don't want to pass in the data that was created or fetched by Next.js. We want to pass in the modified version, because these setters that we have created here, these setters, okay, sorry, these states, when they change, are potentially can change the components that you want to pass into the job list. Okay, so for that reason, you're going to create another piece of state called display jobs. Okay, so here it is, display jobs, and it's going to be initialized to the list of jobs that we pass in here first. Okay, and instead of sending that initial list to the job list, we're going to send these ones first. Okay, now what we're going to do is that these components, the components that are potentially able to alter the state, are going to take this setter that we have created here, the set display jobs, okay, as an input. All right, they're going to take this setter as an input value, so as to be able to change this value here, this state here, reactively. Okay, so let's do that now. First of all, we need, in order to do that, we need to create those components, which we haven't done yet. So let's do that now. And those components are forms, so let's create another subfolder in our components directory called forms. So let's do that. Okay, let's create that. You see we have a form here. Now let's create a search form. Let's create a job sort form as well, and let's create another one for the sidebar. Okay, so if we come here to the search job form, okay, I don't want to bore you with typing. This is again, like I keep saying, this is not a Tailwind tutorial. This is mainly a Tailwind, the Tailwind component to display the piece of that component. So I'm going to copy the ready-made code, and we're going to walk through it very quickly. Okay, just to keep this tutorial the manageable size, length. Okay, so basically this is the job search job form. Okay, so basically what we do, first of all, we receive as input in this component the search form state that we created upward in the jobs form component, right? So we receive this search form state and set search form state, and also we receive the set jobs, right? Set display jobs are those three things that we need. Okay, so and on handle submit at this moment, when we submit the form, well, we do only an alert, okay, nothing else at the moment, and this is going to be used later on when we do a when we create the function in the backend to fetch the data. What we're going to do is when we receive the data here in this handle submit, we're going to call this function to set the display jobs to whatever we found in the data, like whatever was returned by the request. So at the moment we're doing an alert, but this is going to be changed to use the set display jobs. Okay, so now let's import this component. Okay, let's import this component in our jobs page here and use it. All right, so let's do that now. Let me import it here. Import job search job form. Very good, very good. And then what we want to do is to pass that value, that component here like this. You want to return that. Remember, it's just above the actually not, it's actually the first thing that we see in the jobs page component. So let's do that here. Let's put it like this. Okay, so now the first parameter for that, we have a bunch of parameters. Obviously we want that component to be able to receive this, and I've explained to you why we are not creating these states in the component itself. Is because other components depend on that, right? So we have seen that before. So I'm going to do this like this. Okay, I'm going to close this, right? So if I go here on front end, you see that voila, we have a component. Okay, and we have found 5 jobs, and then let's create the next one. And again, just to reiterate, the reason why we are not creating the states for the form in the form component itself is because the state of the form will impact the type of jobs that we display, right? So which other components depend on. That's why we pull the state of the form upward, one component above in the hierarchy tree, so that we can make those changes. We can reactively change whatever is being displayed here whenever the state, the search changes, right? So that's why we pull the state above in the hierarchy tree. All right, so let's get back to our code and let's create that. Now let's also copy the content of the job sort form. Okay, voila. Okay, so here you have the content, and this is going to get the jobs. And the goal of this component, as you imagine, is anytime we have a list of jobs, right? Let me go back to the screenshot. Every time we have a list of jobs, we want to be able to search, to not search, but sort those jobs that are currently displayed based on a particular sort order, right? So this component doesn't necessarily send a query to the database, but it's actually sorts. Its job is to sort whatever it is that we are currently displaying here on the front end based on a particular order. It can be the date that the job was posted, it could be by alphabetical order, descending or ascending, and so on, right? So that's why we don't have like a state, like for example the one that we have here, which is the state of the form itself. This form can keep his own state internally, and it should all be fine. All right, and the last state that we have, the last form that we have, which is the longest one, is the sidebar form. And for that too, we have the code. So let's copy the code very quickly. First of all, let's display this form in the front end. Basically, it should be somewhere here like this, right? So let's copy, let's add that here. Sort jobs sort form. I think it's called like that, job sort form. Very good, very good. And then let's pass in jobs. It should be the display jobs. Very good. And then set display jobs equals set display jobs. Oops, like this. Voila. And if I go to the front end and we look at it, very good. You see, here we have it. Here we have our component. Obviously, I'm gonna arrange the styling with Tailwind in a minute, but I want to keep things to the concepts for the moment. So now the final thing that we want to do, obviously, is to make the changes to the sidebar. And let me call this like this: sidebar, like this. All right. So we want also this component, so let's do that now. Copy the code in my notes. It's basically a big blob of Tailwind code with some state in it, so let me copy that very fast, add it here. Okay, let's copy paste it here. Very good. Voila. So basically this component is going to receive, just like the search job form component is going to receive its state and the setter of his state from the parent component, and the setter of the display jobs from the parent component as well. And then we basically have all the options that are available for each of the inputs in the form. So the job types options, right? The experience level options, the base salary ranges options, okay? And then we have all the handlers, so each of these options. So if the handle remote only, if the handle remote okay, if it's toggled, you want to trigger this function, okay? And the job here will be to send a request and filter the jobs, okay? And once we have the jobs, then we're going to call set display jobs in that function, right? Similarly here, handle feature jobs only change. That's what we want to do. If the feature jobs changes toggle is clicked on, we want to call this function. Similarly, if handle job type select box is checked, we want to make sure that we send a query based on the jobs that are being the job types that are being selected, right? So we want to push, remember this is an array. If I go back here to the state job types, okay, and this is an array here. So when we select a particular job type, what we want to do is we want to push the state, okay? We want to push that job type in the array that is here, the job types array here, right? So that's what we're doing in this function, and that's exactly the same thing that we're doing in the experience level handler here, all right? And similarly, that's the same thing that we're doing in the salary range select, okay? That's exactly the same thing that we're doing basically, okay? And one particular thing about the salary range, one thing you remember, we kept two arrays for that. So base salary options and base salary bounds, voila. So the reason why we are keeping base salary bounds, if you see here, is that we have this bounds option. Let me go here for you to see where we're using this. Okay, we have this. So every time we change like every time we click on a particular value let me go to the outcome so you see. So every time we select one of these options, okay, we want to push not only the selected values, the selected options in the array, but we also want to put and that's very much dependent on how they are created here. If we come back here, you see we have not only the values here that are displayed, but the bounds. Okay, we have the mean and the max for each one of the values, the mean and the max for each of the values. So that's why we keep two arrays, one array for the values, the actual values of the select, and the actual values by which you're going to filter. Okay, and that's exactly why that's exactly what we're doing here in this form. So for example, in the case of the checked, when that a particular checkbox is being checked, okay, what we do is that we get the base options and we push the option, the particular option that is the value, and then the next thing we want to do is to get the current bounds, and we push the mean and we push the max. Okay, so that keep an array of values that have the minimum and the maximum at each time. Okay, and so that when we send the query to the database, to the server, we are able to filter, to make a query, a filtered query to our CMS based on the minimum and the maximum value, okay, which are numeric values, as you can see here. So that's why we need this thing here. All right, so let me close this, and the rest is basically Tailwind component, as you're familiar with now. So I'm not gonna spend much time on that. So that done, let's now go back to our jobs page component again, and then let's use that. I think I'm gonna use it somewhere here. All right, so I'm gonna use that here, like this, jobs page sidebar form. Voila. Let's use that here like this, and let's put sidebar state form. Okay, sidebar like this. Think you can just copy this like this, and similarly set sidebar form state. Very good, like this. And obviously we want to pass also the set display jobs. Voila. Final component, final parameter, and then let me close this. Very good. Let's see how it looks on the front end. Sidebar form state is not defined. All right, jobs page. Let's see. Sidebar form state. Okay, maybe I think I have a typo here somewhere. Sidebar form state. Oh yeah, that's it. That's the reason. Should be like this. And similarly, this should be, this one here should be like this. Okay, very good. Now it should work. Very good. So here we have our form. Very good. But as you can see, it's not yet well styled. Okay, so that too will demand some Tailwind styling. Okay, very simple basic Tailwind styling. So I have it here already. I'm just going to quickly copy it and paste it here, just so not to spend time, and we're gonna walk through it very quickly. But but immediately you can see from the outcome of the tutorial that we need a flex. Okay, oops, let me reduce this a little. We need a flex here. Oops, let me actually close this. We need a flex, okay, that will keep this first block here on the left, and will have a certain value, and then the other one will be on the right side. We'll have this four blocks here. So that's exactly what we're gonna do here. So let me replace whatever we have here with that, like this. Okay, already have the code. Just don't waste your time. Set sidebar form. 1 sec. Let me change this like this. Set sidebar form. Okay. Let's refresh that. title. Okay, in my notes I had it as title, so let me replace that. Title, very good, very good, very good. Here, jobs, search for it, title, here. Let's refresh this. Very good, very, very good. You see, now it works. Everything is perfect, everything is in place. I hope we haven't covered too many things in this video. I thought it would be a very long video, so that's why we have a lot of copy paste. But the main purpose of this video was to, if you understand why we have structured our component the way we did, then yeah, you definitely then I was able to convey the main message of this video, which was not necessarily about like how to style the components and so on, but really how to think React, how to think how to architecture your React components. Okay, so just to recap very quickly, in this video we started with a listing page which only had the job listings, and our goal was to evolve from that and have a listing page that also include a search bar like this, okay, a sort bar like this, okay, and a sidebar like this as well, and the goal is whenever we change the state on the sidebar, anything that changes here should change the jobs that are currently being displayed. Likewise, when we search something here on the search bar, we want to be able to change the state. Okay, same thing here. When we change by which criteria is sorting, we want to be able to change the state here. And for that reason, we decided to pull the states that all these components depend on in a parent component called jobs page. Okay, we could have done that directly in the index.js, right, in here in the index.js page here, but this will have, I mean, I like to keep everything that is related to Next.js only in the Next.js and nowhere else, right? So that's why I think it's best architectural design, because guess what, one day you may decide to use something else than Next, and this component is very reusable. You can just take that component and reuse it the way you want, right? As long as you initialize it properly with the right jobs like this here, okay, you're good to go. This is a very reusable component. So I think I'm gonna wrap things up here, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I see you in the next one. Thank you very much. Bye.